Alright folks, hello and welcome to another Minecraft video. My name is LeaderGrev and this is Guude's 404 Challenge Episode 5. And before I get to talking about the topic I've sort of set for the day for myself, I want to give a quick shout out, a big thanks to CoStar. The difference a like makes on a video when it's from a YouTube celebrity is quite immense, so I gotta thank the guy. And I've got new audience members from him. Some old audience members re-sparked their interest. So thanks a lot. It really made a difference, and I really appreciate it. It's usually not too commonplace for popular YouTubers to get back to you, to really pay attention to what people are saying, and that's really nice, and I aspire to that. So thanks a lot. And for those of you who are new to my audience, I hope you enjoy your stay. And now let's get to the actual topic of the day, and I swear I've tried recording this like 6 times, and every time I've been interrupted by something, and it's absolutely frustrating. I just want to get it over with already. And what I want to talk about is, as you guys have probably all heard by now, Modern Warfare 3 has made record sales figures. And that, I don't want this video to be me bashing Modern Warfare 3, because to be entirely honest, I have not played it. My tenure with Call of Duty games ended with COD 4 because I realized that Call of Duty wasn't really for me. I didn't really like it, and some of the complaints that I'm going to make today stand as much for the old games as they do today, which is kind of a shame and kind of part of why I don't play it anymore. But let's basically get to it. Regardless of whether or not you play Call of Duty, the fact that it's made such numbers really speaks not only for its popularity, but for the effect it'll have on the game industry. Look at that fabulous escape right there. Just gotta take a pause for a second and highlight that. That was pretty slick. But regardless of whether you like it or not, Call of Duty will have an enormous impact on the industry. If you look at games coming out today, many of them shouldn't have a multiplayer component, but publishers will say, you know what, look at Call of Duty. Look at these games that are making the figures, that are making the money. They've got Call of Duty. Our money is on not Call of Duty, on multiplayer. So games like Assassin's Creed will get multiplayer, and in some cases, as I see it, for example, multiplayer in Assassin's Creed, I really think that's really cool. In some cases, that's really a good thing for us. Call of Duty did us a favor in that sense. But in other ways, some games that shouldn't have multiplayer and then don't handle it well and take assets away from the original development, sometimes that happens, and that's also as much a possibility. So it's a mixed bag. But that's the very basic one, the very basic effect, where you see games and publishers rather, looking to developers and saying, look at these big numbers, look at these big budget games, they're doing something we aren't, and it's clear that we've got to emulate some of this to get an audience. Take Battlefield 3, for example. Battlefield 3 has, I haven't played it, but I know what the story is, and from what I've heard, it's not a very good story. And there are some parts of Battlefield that just shouldn't be there in general in Battlefield 3, but they are, and it's my suspicion that they're there because of EA's rivalry with Activision, because of this whole Battlefield has to live up to Call of Duty to make us money, which is kind of ridiculous, but it'll have mixed effects on the industry, and that's the most obvious problem. And in some cases, like Assassin's Creed, that isn't a problem. But as I said, in some cases it will be. It's definitely, Call of Duty will definitely be shaping the games that we play in the future, and the way games are seen. And speaking of the way games are seen, that's something I see as a problem with Call of Duty making such crazy sales. Because people who are unfamiliar with the industry will look at our industry and say, you know what, look at Call of Duty, it's making tons of money, it's super popular. This is what we have to look at when we look at video games. This is the definitive video game, and that's as fair as taking Transformers and saying this is the definitive film, or taking Avatar and saying this is what we judge films by. But video games are, in comparison to other forms of medium, relatively new, a relatively new medium. So the idea, people are still absolutely free to judge us as a medium, and people are always free to judge any medium, but it's going to happen more often to video games than with other more established mediums. And people seeing Call of Duty success will say, look at video games, they're shooters, this is what they are. And that's kind of a shame. I mean, you can't blame Call of Duty for that. A lot of that blame lies with us, the consumer. I mean, we vote with our wallets, basically. But that is, in my opinion, kind of a downside to Call of Duty making such record sales. And, like, I don't mean to rain on Infinity Ward's parade, but I see that as a problem. When people don't get the full image and just look at it from the point of view that, look at Call of Duty, that's the definitive game. And that's going to be a problem we're going to have to face. How do we fully represent our medium outside of sales? Another problem is, well, actually, this is kind of a perceived problem. It really depends on your understanding or point of view or perspective, but we're going to be seeing an increase in sequels. Now, this isn't entirely Call of Duty's fault. We've been seeing this for a while now. If publishers see that a franchise is doing well, they're going to stick with their guns, of course. If something makes money and does a good job, people are going to stick with it. But the problem I see with this is that Call of Duty is a franchise that changes very little because it already has a somewhat successful formula. I mean, you can't look at all the people who are buying Call of Duty and say that's not a successful formula because, unfortunately, you're either wrong or all the people buying the game are wrong. And who knows? That's not for us to decide. Call of Duty, what it does is it caters to, it knows its audience. It knows that Call of Duty players basically want the same experience, just refined and with a new setting. A lot of Call of Duty players arguably don't want a revolution in gameplay. They want what they're good at, but they want a new setting. They're tired of the boring stuff they've had. It's sort of to a degree like Minecraft, where we get updates when we're tired of things that we've already gotten used to. And when we're tired of something, I mean, we want updates. We want new things to play with, so we get mods and such. That's just how it works. So you can't really blame Call of Duty for that. But at the same time, a lot of developers will look at this and say, all right, we've got a successful thing going here. Do we really have to change that much to please our audience? And a lot of the times they will say no. And something like this, in my opinion, leads to the stagnation of our medium. It's kind of scary when something isn't evolving and changing for the better, or not taking significant strides to want to become better and to become stronger. That's, in my opinion, that's a problem. Finally, one of my big personal rants is how poorly appropriated the money that Activision spends on Call of Duty is, in my opinion. And this is very personal, and probably not too many people would have this same qualm as me, but it's fairly easy to say that Russians are kind of a big deal in Call of Duty. They kind of make up a major plot point, and they're the main enemy, they're the main bad guy. So it's fair to say that Russians are kind of a big deal in Call of Duty. Now, the problem with that is that they're so poorly represented in Call of Duty. As a Russian myself, I speak the language. I can easily say that either Infinity Ward did no research into the Russian language, or very, very little, or just spent their money terribly. Because some of the things you'll hear or see written in Russian are absolutely ridiculous. And there's one specific angle that just, or not angle, part of this that really angers me. I caught onto this when I was still playing Call of Duty 4, and at first it was kind of laughable. I thought, you know what, that's kind of cute, and I forgave COD 4 because it was the first in its franchise, in the sense of modern warfare. And I said, you know what, I'll let that be. But as it goes on, and we've had 3 games, major blockbuster games, that have sold ridiculous amounts of copies, setting entertainment records, that kind of stops being forgivable or even cute. And there was one picture I saw in particular that really, really pissed me off, because then I did a tiny bit of research into it. There's a picture of the submarine mission in Call of Duty there's a soldier standing there, and behind him is a step, and it says "Наблюдайте ваш шаг," which in Russian means watch your step. But the connotation of "наблюдайте" it means watch, so that's probably how they translated it. But the connotation of "наблюдайте" is the same connotation of like the way the FBI watches a suspect, or you would watch a boiling pot of oatmeal or something like that. I don't know what you have boiling pots of. But it has that connotation, and it's clear that they didn't do the research. And what appalled me even more is, I thought, what, this is laughable. They probably use Google Translate. So I got onto Google Translate, and I looked up the translation for watch your step in Russian, and Google Translate had it right. And that is absolutely unforgivable. When Google Translate has something right, and you have it wrong, and you are a successful, fairly rich studio whose publisher pretty much depends on you to make it money, it's arguable that Activision has a lot of hopes for Infinity Ward and for Call of Duty as a franchise. That's really not forgivable when you make silly mistakes like that. And it's not just one, it's all over the game. Things like this, silly things like this. And it just frustrates me how little research was done into something like this, and what kind of precedent that sets for the industry as a whole, where you can do little research and misrepresent an entire culture and an entire language that plays an integral part in your game and still make record sales. So that was pretty appalling to me. So it's clear that Call of Duty will have an enormous impact on games as we know them right now. It'll be changing the things publishers expect from games that are being developed under their title. It'll change the way others perceive our medium, the medium we've come to love and know. And it's really going to impact industry standards, and that's what really scares me. Because I'm not exactly certain if those are the standards we want to be looking towards. But that's all. We'll see. Who knows how much longer Call of Duty will last, or how much longer we'll be having these problems, or what'll come of Call of Duty, or what will come of these problems that I've mentioned. Who knows? Maybe somehow this will all turn out for the better. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my brief rant. I really didn't intend to hate on Call of Duty. That's not my intention. But it will have a pretty intense impact on the industry, and we better not forget that. So vote with your wallet. So thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day. Alright folks, if you enjoyed that video, click the like button, and if you want to see more content from me, I put out videos almost daily, so click the subscribe button. A video you may have missed but might enjoy is my Giant Ravine 5 Child's Play story episode, where I talk about what Child's Play means to me, and about how I was in the hospital for a collapsed lung, and how the Wii really helped me get through that. And it's a really interesting video. I put a lot of time into that, and I think you guys will really enjoy that. I know a lot of people did. It had more views than usual, so do check that out. I think you guys will really enjoy it. I have a link to my Twitter in the description of the video down below, so you can follow me there. I put stuff about Minecraft, about my videos, things like that, as well as a link to the Child's Play website where you can find out more about Child's Play, and a link where you can donate to my Child's Play chip encounter. I would really appreciate that. So thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.